Episode 64. Okay. This is a continuation of episode 63. So you literally cannot listen to episode 64 without listening to episode 63. So if you're continuing on the journey with Bobby and Lesley, let's get to it. If you haven't listened to episode 63, stop, rewind, go back in your podcast player and start with episode 63. Okay, ready? Let's dig in. What does a contraction feel like? How do I know if I'm in labor? And what does a day of labor look like? Wait, is this normal? Hey, I'm Heidi. My best friends call me Hides. I'm a certified birth doula, host of this podcast, and author of Birth Story, an interactive pregnancy guidebook. I have supported hundreds of women through their labor and deliveries, and I believe every one of them and you deserves a microphone and a stage. So here we are. Listen each week to get answers to these tough questions. Birth Story, where we talk about pregnancy, labor, deliveries, where we tell our stories and share our feelings. And of course, chat about our favorite baby products and motherhood. And because I'm passionate about birth outcomes, you will hear from some of the top experts in labor and delivery. Whether you are pregnant, trying desperately to get pregnant, or you just love a good birth story, I hope you will stick around and be part of this birth story family. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast and absorbing all of the information that you need for an amazing pregnancy and birth. My pregnancy guidebook and journal called Birth Story is available at birthstory.com. And as a listener of this podcast, I want you to have $5 off. I want you to listen to this podcast and engage with the book. So just use code BirthStoryPodcast when you get to checkout. It is my thank you for supporting me. This pregnancy guidebook and journal is the best gift for you or anyone you know that is expecting. It's a 42 week by week guide to your pregnancy. It has birth affirmations, weekly journaling prompts with a full page for journaling every single week. It has all of the information that you need to connect to your pregnancy and have an empowered birth. So thanks for shopping at birthstory.com. Don't forget to use code BirthStoryPodcast for your $5 off. It's also available on Amazon, or if you prefer the audiobook, you can download it on your Audible app or at audible.com. Now, let's get to this amazing episode. If I'm your doula, I'm preparing you for 41 weeks and 1 day as a first-time parent. And so my clients are very surprised when they go into labor at 37 weeks, except for my last 4 all delivered at 37 weeks. But they're still surprised by it because I've prepared them for 41 weeks and 1 day of birthing. So will you share a little bit about how, I don't know if you were induced or what, but how the end of your pregnancy went and how you moved into your birthing time?
Yeah. First of all, labor was I don't know. I think it was amazing. I look back on it kind of fondly. I just think it was such a cool 12 hours. But so 37 weeks, 3 days. It was the middle of the night. I was making one of my dozens of trips to the bathroom, as we do. And then I was crawling back into bed, and I felt what felt like a water balloon popping inside me, and somehow locked eyes with Bobby and went, "Oh, am I allowed to curse on here?"
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
I was like, oh shit, oh my.
Yeah, that's how I woke up. These 2 big ass eyeballs looking at me, just saying, oh shit. And then
I just I don't know, just ran back to the bathroom and was like, my water broke.
Yeah. Not in I guess we're kind of delirious because we were half asleep, but we were kind of on schedule. We had the house most of the way clean. We had this final pile of a box of stuff.
Did a big purge.
The dining room table was the last thing. We had a pile of stuff that we still had to kind of sort through. And that pile, by the way, stayed for like a year.
I love that y'all were nesting in unison, by the way. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. But we were like really, getting the house ready and stuff. And we
had our midwife. We had Molly. We took a class. We were like,
we just had those next, even like one more week, we would have been like, the house would have been completely ready and stuff. But whatever. But yeah, all right, you let Lesley take back over. But
yes, my water broke, which I'm like, I feel like in the birthing class, we were told is like 10% of cases that movie scene where you're like standing like in an office and you're like, oh my God, what splashed on my shoes? Run to those. Anyway, so that happened. I guess like, I don't know if this is good. In my mind, the good part was that I think I said to Bobby, like, well, we know we're definitely going to have a baby, like in the next, 24, 36 hours, like however long they'll kind of let you go after your water breaks. I was like, so this is definitely happening. Because I think I had mentally prepared for 41 weeks, 42 weeks, which I think is more statistically probable. And then also like 40 hours of labor. We had bought the yoga balls. We had those fake candles. Like we just had everything. I was like, we're going to do this. We're in this zone. It's going to be like, I don't know, we're going to go to walk around the park. Like we're going to take our time and just like, I don't know, just really like ease into the whole thing. And it was like, it didn't go opposite. It wasn't super fast, but everything happened pretty definitively and pretty quickly.
Okay.
So my water broke. Then I did something, I think for like a minute, I was like paranoid that I wasn't feeling a lot of movement with the baby. So I think I probably chugged some juice, got some kicks. I felt relaxed. I think we called the midwife and got like the voicemail that was like, if your water has broken and the color looks like this, please call back at 7 a.m. And so we decided not to bother the midwife. And we, I think, sent a text to Molly, who did text back right away.
Our doula.
And was like, I will be there as soon as you need me. Just let me know. So we kind of relaxed for a bit. And I think once we kind of like knew those things were like what we were doing there, I did ridiculous things. Like I opened my laptop and sent a series of like out of office messages, including like an email to my design team where I really like took a lot of time to pick like the perfect like GIF, like animated GIF to like put in there that was like something about how it's go time, and everyone laughs about that like once they return to work. But I don't know, there was like kind of nothing to do for a few hours. Like I wasn't really having contractions, but I knew things were going to happen. I couldn't sleep. I was too like pumped up. And so I think that's what I did and like relaxed. And then we also were like, we don't have a bag packed. And so we were like just throwing things into bags. So maybe that was like 2 or 3 hours. And then eventually some contractions started.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna break in because I feel like you had like so many teachable moments in these early hours that I just don't want to like, I can't just gloss over them. Okay. So the first thing is what you experienced. It's called PROM. It's premature rupture of the membranes. And it's when the first sign of labor is your water breaking, and you nailed it. It's about 10 to 12% of the time. And the data suggests that your body will naturally go into labor within about 6 or 8 hours, but it can take up to 24 or 48 hours. And the reason I want to bring that up is because Lesley, you and Bobby are all about breaking down some of these societal things. And so there is something we have to break down. And one of the things that you said is however long they let you go. And we so easily, because medically we get scared, right? It's so like we just want our baby in our arms, and like there is a point in labor or pregnancy sometimes where we're like, I don't care. I just listen to you. Just do everything. Just make sure that this baby, my baby comes home. My child comes home with me. And so we have this tendency in our culture to fall into like what they will let me do to my body. And so I just want to bring up that data. So yes, your risk of an infection called chorioamnionitis, which is an infection in the around the placenta and the amniotic fluid. It can cause an accelerated heart rate with mom and baby and a fever. It should be treated with antibiotics if that's something that one elects. And it's a cause for concern, but it is still pretty rare. It typically happens when your water is ruptured for more than 24 hours. In my personal career, I really haven't seen it kick in too often before hour 36 or 40. So I do think 24 hours is still a little conservative. But if anyone's listening and they find themselves at 37 weeks and 3 days, like staring at their partner, like wide-eyed, and as like, my water broke, then just know, like you had mentioned, there wasn't a lot to do for a couple hours. It takes your body about 6 or 8 hours to get with the program, to be like, oh, I guess we're having a baby today. And then slowly, usually the onset of labor begins. And so, it would be really normal to send some emails, call the people that you need to call, pack your bags, all of that kind of stuff. So it sounds like within a few hours, you started to feel what? What were you feeling in your body when things changed?
Yeah, I guess this is where it gets fuzzy, but I know by so if that was like 3 a.m. when my water broke, by 6 or 7 a.m., I think I decided to take a shower. Like in my mind, I was like, I'm going to make myself nice for this experience. And then I think I started to have like more serious, maybe I was having a few light contractions. I had more serious contractions in the shower, but then as people tell you, it feels amazing just to be in the shower while you're having contractions. So I'm pretty sure I stayed in there for like 2 hours. Probably.
Oh, that's where you were when Molly came, right? Yeah. So
You have amazing hot water quality.
Oh, yeah.
That's the upside to being in like a building, like a big
massive pre-war.
Yeah, apartment building.
Awesome. You're like, hope nobody else is bathing right now because it's all coming
And then I think maybe at some point while I was in the shower, we busted out the timer to start trying to time things. And maybe around...
Oh, yeah. The contraction app.
The old contraction app.
Oh, yeah.
And then around 7, I think we were like, actually, Doula Molly, it would be great if you came over. And so maybe she came over at like 8. And then I think maybe around 9 or 9:30, she was like, hey, your contractions are pretty close together. And I just checked the traffic because it was Monday morning rush hour and we got to get in the car. So a lot of my laboring happened in a lift, which was the least awesome part, I think, of that whole day. But yeah, and I think I kind of like started to really... I think from like maybe the end of shower until Wildfire arriving, apparently my sort of game time, power and coping mechanism was to just kind of like go look inside myself and like close my eyes and just like shut out the world and like breathe. So I'm pretty sure my eyes were closed like 90% of the time from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. So I don't find everything that was happening, but I do recall Molly getting on the phone with our midwives. This is where, in so many ways, Molly was amazing, but I think that's where like we really started to feel like she's got us, like she's on the team.
Yeah.
Like she's like, we gotta go. She's like, I'm calling your midwife, and I do recall like a very serious message to the midwife, like because I think things did progress like a little faster than expected. That she was like, no, seriously, meet us at the hospital. We're coming.
Yeah, from what I understand after the fact, that maybe like the midwife was kind of like,
nah,
too
fast.
Yeah. So we know after the fact, just to kind of foreshadow what's about to happen at the hospital, we know after the fact that Molly said that she had reached out to her doula network about tips on giving birth on the side of the road.
No, I think that's while we were in the car. That's before.
While we were in the car.
Yeah.
We didn't know that until after I'm saying that you gave birth. Yeah. So because that's how close she felt like we were. Yeah. Yeah, that Lesley was to giving birth.
Now, is everyone in the same lift?
Yeah. This is like probably a funny thing about like, city like Brooklyn and New York City. Birds is like pretty much no one has a car, and like no one really lives like near the hospital or birthing center they're birthing at. So it's like you have to calculate in this like commute time. And then there's like this polite thing where you like get into the lift and like you like lay down like a plastic sheet just in
like
case.
the towel.
No, seriously, yeah.
How did the Lyft driver
I
handle
know.
that?
I'm like, now I want to interview Lyft drivers in New York City.
They were very cool. They were unimpressed.
They were very cool. And yeah, like I told them New York, like,
Yeah, I've been 100 times.
yeah, like staying away, you know, not trying to like get involved, not talking, like giving a space, but like definitely aware of what was happening. And like with the calmness as if like this person had like this happens like once a week, which I know it doesn't, but
These Lyfts and cab drivers, they are so cool. They're like, we got this. It's fine.
Yes. Okay. But I need to know like the layout. Like I need to understand like where Bobby is, like where your doula is, like are you needing like a double hip squeeze or someone pushing on your sacrum? Like, do you even remember what your needs were? Like, what was Bobby doing?
Yeah, there was some pushing. So Molly was in the passenger seat up front and coaching me on some things to do for Lesley. And there was some pressing on your back.
No, I think I was in like a don't touch me mode. But I was like, at one point I was like, I really am feeling a lot of pressure. And Molly was like, Bobby, I'm going to need you to check what's going on down there.
Well, I say, oh yeah. No, I mean, I definitely remember that. I don't know, trust me. And so I think for me, this is the moment I'm most proud of. And not to say that like what I did is compared to anything with Lesley, but I can just tell you that I never would have dreamed I could do this without passing out. And I think that I'm guessing, you know, it's also just some kind of primal thing in us that like I just felt like I was also just doing things that I wasn't capable of and staying focused and supporting Lesley in a way and like that I normally wouldn't be able to with like that kind of level of emotions and hectic stuff going on. But yeah, so I had to. What was I looking
I think you were
for?
trying to feel
The head?
Yes.
Was I literally looking for?
Yeah, I think for hair.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
So it wasn't, we weren't that far along, but I think that's when Molly was looking for some support from her doula network about protocol. Because the BQE is like a major highway we were on in the city. And it was like protocol for like, there's not even really like a shoulder protocol for delivering from the side of the BQE.
Yeah, it would be like delivering on the beat, like on the highway, because there's not much. But
yeah, we eventually made it. It was like an hour and a half in Monday morning rush hour traffic.
But wait, no, I have so many questions though.
Okay.
Did you feel a head? Or was it like, no, I just feel vagina?
I don't know.
It's weird. So I don't remember. I guess I thought maybe it was something. Whatever Molly told me to feel for, I didn't feel. I do remember that. It was so.
Maybe cervix. Maybe she was asking you to.
Could that be?
Yeah, maybe she was asking you to feel for cervix.
I actually think that's. I think that sounds more. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just dying if you'd have looked at the Lyft driver and been like, turn on the hazards. Like, this is happening.
We're doing it.
Put on these scrubs.
Yes. Now, Lesley, when we're in our, like Bobby's talking about being in their primal body, but like when you're in this situation, you're in your primal body too. And what I've noticed is that moms in their primal body typically aren't nervous. Like they're not able to they don't know if they're on a highway or they're in a hospital or in their house, and they don't give two shits either. So were you like deep into that primal self where you were like, I'm having a baby, we're good here? Or were you panicking a little bit?
No panic. No, I think it's kind of, I never really like talked to anyone about this and heard the different language people use. But yeah, I would say like I was somehow in a primal self, but that was very like just trying to like shut everything out and in a way like focus to cope. Because I mean, the contractions were pretty painful. And so, yeah, like my eyes closed and I was like moaning. Like some deep moans, and maybe just opening my eyes every once in a while because I have like little flash memories of like, okay, we're in this neighborhood. Okay, we're in the BQE. Like, okay, we're finally in Manhattan. Like, so slight awareness of the journey, but like just trying to like do my job, just like focus.
Yeah.
And deal. And then that, I guess that's where like the marathon metaphor is pretty good. It was like kind of just game time, just like, just be in this.
Mm-hmm. We use this word a lot, surrender, like when we just surrender to kind of like what's happening and what's going around. Like, I know you surrendered very early on, Lesley, because you had a short labor. And it just goes hand in hand. My parents that are able to both parents at the same time in connection with each other, when they are able to surrender to the birthing process, it goes much more smoothly, and it's much shorter. It's just shorter labors. So everything that you're describing tells me that you and Bobby were really in sync. You were in sync with your doula. You were surrendering to the process. And that moaning and that primal, we call it the labor zone. And it's actually your body, like physiologically speaking, it's your body flooding you with natural opioids. And so you're, from a physiological primal standpoint, you're actually super drugged. Like, there are a lot of addicts that like will talk about, I've interviewed a couple on the podcast, but they'll talk about their birthing time as like, oh my God, it was the best high I've ever had since I got sober.
Good. Like,
yes.
It's amazing. So Heidi says this one thing that, women and birthing people love. And she says, roar your baby out and really tap into that primal being. And it's interesting. You said one thing that I say to my clients where I really talk about going inward. And I think there is part of your primal being that you connect with that lets you know that you are stronger in a physiological standpoint than you may feel mentally. And it's something that when you choose to embrace, I tell my clients, don't underestimate your badassery. And so it's one of those things where when you embrace that, like, you can do this, Heidi said the labor amount of time is significantly different than other birthing persons who may not surrender.
Yeah. And typically, so did you go into this process like wanting to have a natural birthing experience? Like, and by natural, I mean unmedicated?
Yeah, that was also part of like the sort of, evolution and like education we had when we started like learning more about the decisions you need to make and the different options. I think by default I was like, I'll be in a hospital and I'll be medicated. And then I just learned that, it doesn't have to be that way, and I don't want it to be that way. And actually I was trying to think, there was like, I basically read like 2 books during pregnancy, and one was Expecting Better, which is this super like, statistical, very like factual approach. And then who's the really famous midwife?
Ina May Gaskin.
Ina May. And then, it's like one of her books. And then I was like, and it was, they were, you could say opposite, but also complementary. And I was like, and just from Ina May, I was like, oh, like our bodies are made to do this. Like, everyone's been doing this for like, hundreds of years. Like, why do I need this to be medical? Like, my body can do this. And so I was like, that's my approach. It's like, the body can do this. It's going to be like an amazing experience, maybe even enjoyable. And like, I just wanted to have that happen.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad that was your plan, because when you're in the lift saying there's pressure and you're primal, and I'm like, Colin and I know where this is ending.
We looked at each other and we were like, oh.
Okay. So you get to the birthing center, or at least you get to the hospital. Do you get to the birthing center part of the hospital?
I do not.
You do not. Okay, but do you get inside the hospital?
Oh yeah, it's not that dramatic. But actually, the last leg was kind of funny because this hospital sort of had like a driveway you could drive up to if you kind of make the right turn, and the driver missed the turn, and so instead you'd have to go like around a city block, like, which could take, in traffic like 10, 15 minutes.
Oh, more, yeah.
And,
who knows?
And I was like, do not do, like, it was like the only mean instruction. I was like, stop the car, I'm getting out. And then I had to go up like a bunch of flights of stairs.
I think you were from when we got in the car to when you gave birth, I think you came out of the zone 2 times. One was to say that, and one was to the driver put on some song that you just were like not feeling.
It was like Christmas music.
Oh, maybe it was like Christmas music. Yeah, it was something. And Lesley was just like, change it.
Change this.
And that's it. Those are the only 2 times you really like came out, and everything else you were just in like this
pretty
warrior mode, but not in a panic, just like in just like it's just a zone, really.
But also because I felt like completely safe and taken care of, because I knew you were there, I knew Molly was there, and like the only thing I needed to do was like, I don't know, like just kind of deal and enjoy and be present, and like everything else about like getting into the room or like who has my bag or like I didn't need to think about any of that.
Yeah. Now, this goes into kind of the advocacy piece that we were talking about before, with kind of like, now you get to this hospital and you're trying to go to the birthing center. And I'm assuming that your doula, Molly, has like a birth plan. Does she have anything like with your wishes on language and that kind of thing? Like I was curious about, like, when you're approaching the hospital, is there a plan? Because, gender open parenting isn't going to be the norm right now, even though it should be, with medical language. And so, like, was Molly just running that show as you're walking in the door, like directing, or was that Bobby? Like...
she knew.
See what I'm getting at? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think maybe Molly was running interference a little bit with like some of the nursing stuff.
So they weren't like, "What are you having?" That's what I mean. Like, okay.
No, because we had like, even when we were meeting doulas, that was something we brought up. When we were meeting midwives, that's something we brought up. We made sure everybody was not just like okay with it, but like comfortable with it. And also, because of what we were doing with the birth certificate, I was in contact with the hospital for like months before I try to get everything in place as birth certificate goes, so we didn't have to like do anything day of. I knew we weren't going to be in the headspace to like have arguments or try to like do things administratively. And so
we wanted to make sure that we had a midwife and a hospital that were going to like follow our wishes for the birth certificate.
Okay. Yeah. So you're waddling in, I don't know, holding your baby in at this point to the hospital. Yeah. And but all of this is already like pre-taken care of. Okay. Yeah. That was important. I need to this was a piece of the story that I was missing. And so I was like, oh man, they're going to walk in and the nurse is going to do this whole sweet, like, what are you having? And then I'm like, oh, crush it. Okay, so good. So this whole environment has been pre-planned and is being controlled. All right, now the listeners are like, Heidi, stop talking. She is about to birth her baby. So I'm sorry. I want to hear, like, now. Okay, you're in the hospital. Now what happens?
8 to 9 centimeters.
Yeah, I think it was like this dramatic entrance and like waddling up the stairs. And I'm pretty sure like a complete stranger came out to help me walk in.
It was, I mean, we should have never had to take the stairs, but it's because the driver missed the turn. I mean, I'm not complaining, but so we had to do this ridiculous, like, it was like out of a movie. Like, we're like staring at these stairs and I'm just like, how the hell are we going to get you up these stairs? This is ridiculous.
As soon as you said stairs, I was like, bold move, guys. Like, whoa.
But like Molly, like as doulas and Molly, we're probably like, yes.
Walk that baby
do
out.
Those stairs. At the top of those stairs is the baby. Like, this is going to progress labor. This is going to finish it off.
But then we got in. I recall sitting in like a wheelchair and getting like wheeled up to the triage floor. We were aware that I had to at least triage before they said if I was going into the birthing center or a hospital room, and or like a labor room. And I mean, I feel like basically what happened is I failed triage. That's my failure. But I guess what happened was that they were detecting like a sporadic heartbeat in Wildfire, which, like after some reading, I'm like, of course, because that's what happens, because the heartbeat changes through contractions. But it's like we're not really in a place to like argue in that moment. And so for that reason, they wanted me in like more of a hospital room than the birthing center.
I think and also from what I understand, it's like, it's not in this situation, because I did ask about it, because I was like trying to, obviously I advocate for Lesley. I like really made sure from the midwife that that's what we had to do. But I think these are like hospital policy, and like the midwife is working or contracted with the hospital and like has to follow, like, Lesley has to check off these things in order to go to the birthing center. It's not like a gray area. I think you got to meet certain numbers. And so the heart rate was a little bit too, I thought it was just said the heart rate was too, it was too fast. Yeah, I think that's I think Wildfire's heart rate was too fast. And, yeah, so I was definitely bummed because I was kind of like, it's already happening. You know, I was well aware that like things had gone. By the way, I like used to, the job I was working in, I like do like parent-child music classes. So like all I've ever heard is birth stories for like forever. And after Lesley got pregnant, I was like specifically like, I wanted to hear everything from everybody, all the parents that were in my classes. So I knew that, you know, things don't always go as you plan. And so it was kind of a bummer as soon as we get there to like already kind of go off course. So I was nervous about that, but it ended up.
Yeah, and I understand in the grand scheme of things, that's like barely off course for what people might wish for their birthing story.
Totally.
Yeah. Totally. And then just to put some people at peace too, because like, and this may bring you guys a little bit of clarity too, but a fast heart rate, especially at the end. So typically we would see heart decelerations when the head is getting squeezed. So the accelerated heart rate is, there's, you know, and I'm not a doctor, this is me speaking as a doula, but there are two like main things that can typically cause a high heart rate at the end. And the first is dehydration. So I just don't know like if that was, you know, part of your story at all. But the second is when your water is broken, you can start to get an infection, that chorioamnionitis that I had mentioned. And then one of the markers of that is the accelerated heart rate. So, I mean, most likely it was probably a little dehydration, and it's the end of your birthing time. And so our children tend to respond to the contractions in different ways. And so anyone listening, I just don't want anyone to be scared. It's more normal to have either heart decelerations or heart accelerations at the end of your labor than it is to have just like this perfectly going heart rate. So bummer for you guys that you didn't get to the birth center, but was your midwife and doula able to stay with you at the hospital?
Oh yeah, definitely. The midwife still did the labor, but yeah, so we finished triage. That was the only time I feel like I started like to feel a little panic, not about the heart rate, because I was just like, everything's gonna be fine. Everyone's taking care of everything. But I feel like the contractions at that point, I remember that I had to like stand to, I don't know, switch rooms or go in a wheelchair. And I just remember like my legs almost like buckling under me because the contractions were like so full body and, you know, like you just feel sort of like out of control. That's the only time I was sort of like overwhelmed by the feeling. But
that means that you hit transition.
That's transition.
Oh,
right in the middle
you're really
of
like
triage.
Decoding my whole story. I love this.
This is when I typically look at my, friends in the eyes and I say, "Welcome to transition."
So cool.
So that's hard. That's hard work when we're that far into our primal self, and then we have to like switch rooms. I mean, it is. There's no way to describe how difficult of a task that is when you're consumed from head to toe in surges. So did you make it to the room?
Yeah, so we made it to the room. I think I got comfy, and then I don't know, within everyone got comfy, everyone got set up, and within 15 minutes or something.
Yeah, it was over. It was like
the midwife was like, "Do you feel like pushing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then I think I maybe pushed 3 times and had a baby.
Wow!
Oh my God, my jaw just hit the floor.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean they were big. They were
yes,
big.
they were fierce pushers.
I've never seen it's just wild to see. Yeah, to see you like that, like in that, like I don't know, just your face, like that intense and like that red and like veins popping out of your forehead and stuff. I mean, it's beautiful, and it's like I was just in awe. I was like just watching, like just I don't know, it was amazing.
It's almost like she was pushing herself to the finish line of the end of a marathon.
This marathon.
Wait a second.
Nice.
But yeah, so it's like we didn't go to the birth. It didn't matter. It didn't really matter. It was like the difference of like if there was like flowers on the table, probably.
No, it's a difference of $900.
Oh yeah, there you go.
In New York City, like hospital rooms, if you want to stay in a private room after, like a recovery room after your baby's born, it's $900 a night, not covered by insurance. But if you give birth in the birthing center, you can stay, I don't know if it's as long as you want, but for like at least 1 or 2 nights, and it's all included. And it's a little bitter about that.
It's $900 a night, and insurance doesn't cover it.
I legitimately thought you said they were going to charge you by the push, though. And I was like,
might as well.
So, yeah. So it's important. So let's check our privilege. Yeah. So like we're privileged to have been able to do that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people cannot do that. And
the first night is covered.
Yeah. But after that,
the
room. And I'm not saying that it's a horrible experience to be in a room with other people, but the
privilege of having the option.
Yeah.
Yes, because I think it's a city thing. It's just like real estate is precious. There's no space for and so I don't think it would even come up like somewhere more spacious. But yes, we had the option, and that's
yeah. No, it's interesting. So we're in Charlotte, North Carolina, and all of our hospitals, every single room is private. So even if you come in with no insurance, if you come in with Medicaid, like you still get a private birthing suite for your entire stay, and no matter which hospital that you're birthing at in our area.
Now,
if you
throwing this in there, the lift probably would have only been $30.
We should have framed that like Fred.
Good point.
Maybe we'll send the podcast to Lyft and be like, we mentioned your brand so many times that the least you could do is give Bobby and Lesley their money back. Oh, okay. So you push 3 times. Now they emerge. And are they small or medium or big? I'm just dying to know what the birth weight is with 3 pushes. So.
Yeah. So it's small, on the smaller side, 6 pounds, 3 ounces.
Okay.
So that, and that maybe.
And that was at 3 weeks early, right?
Yeah. So
that's what I was thinking. Like, I wonder if,
That's on the big side, like normal to big side for 37 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that probably helped with it being such a, I don't know, like I don't want to say an easier process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bobby, I want to hear from you on, did you, like, I always say, like, are you a north person or a south person?
I say knees up, knees down.
Right. So we know that you fished for the cervix already. Like, this is established. And, but were you able to watch your child emerge and be birthed, or like, tell me about what that experience was like for you as a witness.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really glad that, I guess I don't remember if it was the midwife or the doula that asked, but so I was at Leslie's head for a bit, just like, I don't know, holding your hand, like just like touching your forehead and just being there, because that's where it seemed like I should be. And then somebody said, do you want to stand over here? I don't even remember who said it. And if I think back, I remember it just felt like I couldn't say no. Like, I guess I would have been embarrassed to say no, honestly. I hadn't put a lot of thought into standing. It's weird. Yeah, I hadn't put a lot of thought into it. So I'm so grateful that somebody asked me. And yeah, so I walked around and stood and then I watched. Yeah, I would say that, like, I'm not going to say that I watched like 100%, and I definitely was checking back with and looking at Lesley and back and forth. And, but yeah, I'm grateful for where I was standing, for sure, because
I always say the birthing partner parent, it's one of the most, I always get weepy. I'm like super emotional about everything. And it's one of those things where you fall in love with your, partner or spouse or significant other all over again in a new way. You get to look at them and you get to say, not only are you my person, but you are one of the most badass people I've ever seen.
Yeah,
and
totally.
You're the parent of my child, which like you look at them and you were like, you are so cool.
Yeah. That's exactly how, I'm probably used a lot of those words. That's exactly how I describe the experience.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't talk about this a lot with other people. It's cool to hear that that's like more of a common thing. Is it common for the birthing person's partner to be crying and for the person giving birth to be basically like, I mean, after
laughing?
The kid is born, to be like laughing?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's true. I was kind of deliriously like laughing in a sort of like surprised way.
I kind of felt like hung out, like left out on my own. Like I thought like we were all gonna cry here. Like, yeah, I guess that's just like all of the endorphins and hormones just like shooting through Lesley is like just like makes you like delirious or something and laughing. And
I don't know, I feel like my emotion was like happy surprise and awe. Like, what? This little human just came out of me.
Yeah.
It's like I couldn't believe it or something. Like I just woke up.
Right. Like 12 hours ago, like I was just sleeping and I thought I was getting up to pee. What just happened?
Yeah.
I went into labor land and then I opened my eyes and there was a tiny baby right there.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So Wildfire was healthy and was able to stay connected and stay on your chest for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Bobby, did you cut the cord? Was that something you were interested in?
I did not, and it was something I was not interested in. Yeah, we just like as a whole just like weren't are very like neutral about that. There was nothing about like that experience that was resonating with us. So I had already decided. Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's more common, actually. I think a lot of people put the focus on, did the other parent cut the cord? And I think it's one of those things that a lot of people should not feel pressure about if that's not something they feel super passionate about,
Yeah. I cut more cords than any parent I've ever worked with. Like, I would say 7 out of 10 of my couples have me cut the cord. First, it's like a symbolic thing for them. Yeah, like a symbolic thing for them, like that I've seen them through their pregnancy and their birth journey, and then they're allowing me the opportunity, I guess, to help detach. I don't know. I like cutting cords.
If you ever cut a bungee cord tie down, you've done it. So there you go.
So you have a doula, so I'm assuming like you let your cord stop pulsating and all of that. Did you encapsulate your placenta?
I did not. We kind of, I don't know. We kind of were questioning and researching and thinking so much about so many aspects of this whole journey, and like placenta was when we were like, I don't know, and we just kind of didn't look into. I don't know if we had done more research, maybe I would have done something differently, but we didn't feel strongly about that, and I was like, no. I think I looked and took a photo and then was like, okay, bye, placenta.
See you later. I was wondering, since Bobby's Instagram handle is Bobby_Black Vegan. And so this comes up a lot with my vegan clients, whether or not the placenta falls into that.
Get out of here.
That's gobbledygook. Are there vegans that are saying that they can't?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
That's like then be like, can you like chest feed your baby?
Yeah.
Is your own milk vegan?
Yeah.
I love that, like, Bobby, this is the one, like, he's like, they were like, I'm neutral about this. We didn't feel stupid. And then you're like, the placenta, the vegan, that is gobbledygook. Like, you're so hype about it.
No, it's just like, come on. That like misses the point of of course the placenta. Placenta has nothing to do with veganism. Neither does, breast milk or anything like that. Yeah.
Now,
Lesley, were you interested in breastfeeding?
Yes, and I think that's is one of the challenging parts of like our whole journey.
I think it almost defined it. Really.
Yeah, that was hard. I mean, which I know is hard for so many people, but Yeah, I mean, I think I'd done like trying to do some reading and learning in advance. It's something I wanted to do, and was like always, I don't know, kind of anxious about it. Even just like looking at like, I remember in the birthing class, there were some videos of, I don't know, of people, like chest feeding and colostrum and all those things. And I was just like, I don't know, I'm just having this like a really negative visceral reaction to it. I don't know why. It was like very overwhelming to me. But not that I conjured up the outcome that happened, but no, I had a lot of trouble breastfeeding and for at least 6 weeks after Wildfire was born. But it was not just important because it was not just something I wanted to do, but also it's very challenging. There aren't really other options if you're, now let me go back to the vegan thing. There aren't really other options if you're vegan. There's no vegan formula available.
In this country.
In this country.
Yeah.
So if I'm not breastfeeding, then the other option is donor milk, which I'm totally support, but like we kind of just hadn't done any research. So, and you're, in this like delirious state and it's like day 3 and you feel like you're worried your baby's not getting enough milk. And then you have to like start researching about donor. I don't know. It was just kind of, it felt complicated.
So I have polycystic ovarian syndrome. And so I already have societal norm or pressure that as women or birthing people, that our bodies are supposed to be able to do something easily. And so I think that transfers over to breastfeeding or chest feeding. You see a lot of these parents that have these experiences and it looks so beautiful and elegant and it doesn't show the bleeding nipples or, the late night of, staying awake trying to do this. And so there's a lot of unspoken guilt and shame that people that are chest feeding or breastfeeding feel. And I think that reaching out for help is sometimes difficult because you feel like I'm supposed to be able to innately do this. And this is biologically something I'm supposed to be able to do. And so, I think the fact that you're talking about that it was difficult for not just 3 days, not just 2 weeks, struggled for 6 weeks, but you made it through dealing with that emotionally. And it's a big deal.
Yeah, persevered, girl. There's a common theme going on in this, like starting with the marathon, and the perseverance and, all of that. I'm so proud of you, Lesley. I'm so proud of you, Bobby. I mean, what a beautiful journey and what a beautiful birth story. And I mean, I've really enjoyed the last, I don't know, how long have we been talking? An hour and a half that we have been sharing with each other. And so, well, before we kind of conclude the podcast, because telling your birth story was really important. On this podcast, this specific episode, we've been sharing a lot about your birth story, but also about gender open parenting and some of the ins and outs with that. And so I think some of the takeaways that I have, that if anyone is listening to this and they're feeling really inspired by your journey, is that preparing in advance, like the advocacy with having the correct team, but also, like you said, with the birth certificate and making sure that you're communicating with your birthing place and the state that you live in, to kind of jump through some of these hoops, I would say, that we have right now, at least in the United States, that are kind of like barriers, I guess all over the world, but kind of barriers with gender expression. And so I'm just really proud of you guys reading this article and being inspired by it and then going on a journey to change the world. One tiny decision just sets a ripple effect off so that, like I said, that there isn't I hope that there isn't another me and there isn't another Kaylee, because I hope that all children, I dream of a world where all children are raised with the ability to just be who they were born to be.
There's a common thread, I think, between our birth story and the way that we're parenting with gender open parenting. And I think it's like personal rights and freedom and like autonomy. And like, so, it was important for us to be able to make decisions and have the kind of, as much as we could, control the kind of birth that we wanted to and Lesley wanted to have. And, that same thing we're trying to, I guess, grant to like our child is just like autonomy over their everything, their gender, their choices, who they become, what they do, when they want to be happy, when they want to be sad, when they want to be angry, when they want to be jumping up and down. You know, we want this kid to just like have all the opportunities. And yeah, I guess I always want to add that, like, you know, we're doing something called gender open parenting, or some people call it gender creative parenting, where we didn't assign our kid a sex or gender, and we're like, they're young now, so we give we give them all different kinds of clothes, and they have all different kinds of toys, and they have all different kinds of experiences, and then they'll be able to, as they grow, like, you know, find out who they are and like the things that they like and things that they don't like, and we just follow their lead, and about anything, their likes, their dislikes, their identity, their sexuality, their career path, all of that. And we realize that any and all of those things could change over and over, and we're just like in their corner, you know, we're their support team, even though we've taken the step to not assign them a gender and also pronouns. And we're using they, them pronouns in the neutral sense, that at the core of what we're doing is like available to everybody, even if you already have a kid, or maybe you just don't want to do the they, them pronouns, or maybe it's not safe for you, like your family, given your family or your community, it's just like not safe for you to do that. You can still do, there's a lot of other steps you can take to like give kids, you know, all of the choices, all of the opportunities to do like whatever kind of activities they want, and whatever kind of clothes they want to wear, and whatever kind of really anything, and have their experiences and the things that they interact with have nothing to do with their genitals, because that's what this is like. That's the problem. It's like that we box these kids in.
Yeah, it's not always easy, because, you know, it's maybe not the quote unquote norm right now. And of course we have like friends and family and strangers who in casual interactions, you know, if they ask something about our child, and we, you know, explain briefly, usually what we're doing and the pronouns, you know, it's not always well received. But at the end of the day, it just like feels right. Like once we kind of learned about this and made this decision and committed, it's like, I don't know how we would raise our child like any other way. And so any struggle feels like completely worth it, just to like give our child like choice and autonomy. So
also, I just want to add, like, there's a lot of community with this. We are by far not the only family doing this, and we're not the only family raising their kid with they, them pronouns. And then even in a larger sense, where there's an even bigger community of just people, families and parents that are just fed up. They're just fed up with the gender stereotypes, and they want to erase them for their kids. So yeah, I invite people to, like, there are Facebook groups, you know, there's a gender neutral parenting Facebook group. And there's also a very specific Facebook group for people that are interested or currently doing what we're doing. THEYBY's, raising kids with they, them pronouns from birth. And also, yeah, my Instagram handle is Bobby_Black Vegan. And I am like more than willing to answer questions. Like I want anybody that has any question about gender and parenting to please like not hesitate to message me. Find me on Facebook. I just want to just like pay it forward. You know, we were lucky to read the article, and we were lucky to have to find a community of people that could really help guide us. And I just continue to look for opportunities to do that for other folks.
I'm really proud of you guys, and I'm really thankful for you, and that I will probably be reaching out with my own set of questions, because like I said, we're doing this in reverse. My boys are now, they know that the language that we're currently using is still like he, him, boys. But then we tell them, like, if we're getting this wrong at any point,
yeah,
does that make sense? They can speak up at any moment and let us know how they're feeling. I just wanted to share that.
Super cool.
Heidi, we're doing the same thing. I include you in this like community. We're doing the same thing. We want the same thing for our kids. Like maybe we're doing it a little differently, or maybe like we're doing it earlier or you're later, whatever the fuck. Like we're all like doing the same thing. We like want the same exact thing for our kids. And I think it's awesome. And we're like, we're doing it. We're doing the right thing. I don't know about some of the other stuff that I'm doing. Sometimes I question, how good of a parent I am, and like in other facets, but like we're doing the right thing by giving these kids opportunities to be who they are and to express themselves the way they want. Like, I know that part is right.
Yeah.
Well, and what that part is unconditional love to your children.
And it looks different for each family. So anyone who's listening, like your journey and your story may look a little bit different. Our version of unconditional love is my boys see that I unconditionally love their parent regardless of what their gender is, and that they are free to change their gender even within the confines of a marriage and still be loved unconditionally. And so that means that my boys know, and I'm sorry, like that, this is what I use as boys, like but like my children know that they too are unconditionally loved because they're witnessing it. And Wildfire knows that because they are living it. Thank you for being on the Birth Story podcast and sharing. And I encourage anyone who's inspired by your story to reach out to Bobby and Lesley.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Birth Story. My goal is you will walk away from each episode with a clear picture of how labor and delivery might go, and that you will feel empowered by the end of your pregnancy to speak up, plan, and prepare for the birth